For today's lesson, 5.7 rotation, our essential question is what are the 3 basic ways to move an object in a plane? So we have learned the first 2 ways in our previous lessons, and today's lesson is going to be the last one out of the 3 basic ways to move an object. Rotation can be confusing for some of you guys, so after I finish the lesson, I would also show you how to find out if it's a rotation or not, so tune into it. I am using a graphing paper feature for my lesson. If you have a graph paper, that's fine. If you can print out, that's fine. But even if you don't have it, you can just draw coordinate planes. You don't need a lot of numbers, but because we are working with coordinate planes and rotating around, it might be helpful if you have those drawn for you. First, I'm going to go ahead and draw a coordinate plane. I made it 5 by 5 for each side, so you guys can go ahead and draw that. We're only going to use the first 2 planes for this question, but you'll need to use all 4 of them eventually. I'm going to give you the points for the triangle ABC, and they're going to be as follows. A is 2, 6, B is 2, 2, C is 5, 2. And when I connect them, and you're going to have a triangle like this. Let's go ahead and see different scenarios where you're going to rotate this original figure into different positions. So let's take a look. We have A, B, and C, and if we move them, and let's say I have a figure like this as a result. So I'll give you some time. You can go ahead and pause your video and draw this figure. And as you can see, I have A prime, B prime, and C prime. In this case, I have to first identify if it was rotated clockwise or counterclockwise. If you're moving your figure to the right, it's going to be clockwise. I'm just going to put CW. And if your figure is moving to the left side, it's going to be counterclockwise. Okay, so in this case, when I see my figure, this original figure moved to the left. So I'm going to say that this figure moved counterclockwise, and it moved counterclockwise for 90 degrees. So how do I know that? It's going to start from one of the coordinates and it's going to move to the next one. So if I move to the one on the left, it's going to be counterclockwise. And because I moved one coordinate plane over, it's going to be 90 degrees. In this case, my rotation of origin is going to be the middle, which is right here, and I moved it 90 degrees. So let's take a look at our new coordinate points, which are going to be the primes, A prime, B prime, and C prime. I have the A's already here, but let's see how it changed from the original to our image. So my A is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2. So I'm going to write 6, 2 for A prime. And it's going to be a -6, right? Because I went to the left. And then my B prime is going to be -1, 2, and then +2. So B prime is going to be -2 and +2. And then for my C, it's going to be -2 and +1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -2 and +5. If you look at the numbers, what you're going to realize is that the A, the original, and the prime, they swap their places. And then as they swap their places, their x value is going to change its sign from positive to negative. So the first pattern that you're going to see is this. For counterclockwise 90 degrees, you're going to see that your x and y coordinates are going to change into y and x. So you're going to swap the numbers. And the first number is going to have a negative sign. So now you know that when you are starting your figure from the first quadrant, you're going to have this rule to follow. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on the 90 degrees clockwise and also 180 degrees. I'm going to use the same exact shape and I'm going to go ahead and rotate them. If you want to just use the first coordinate plane and just use different pen or different color pencils to indicate that they're going to be different ones, I'm okay if you do that so that you don't have to draw three different shapes. However, for your convenience, I'm going to put them in separate graphs so it's easier for you to see the differences. So I went ahead and drew my new image for 90 degrees clockwise. If you notice, this shape that you have originally moved to the next one, which is going to be the right side. And when you move in a clockwise rotation, you know that it's going to be clockwise, obviously, moving to the right, and it's going to be 90 degrees because you only moved one quadrant plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find out my A prime, B prime, and C prime. In this case, my A prime is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right and 2 to the bottom. So it's going to be A prime is going to be 6, comma, negative 2. My B prime is then going to be 1, 2 to the right and 2 down. So it's going to be 2, comma, negative 2. And C prime is going to be positive 2 and negative 5. If you look at the pattern here, similar to the last one that we did, you're going to see that the x and then the y's are going to change its spot. And instead of the x value, now y value is going to change into negative number. So for 90 degrees clockwise, you're going to have your x and y values changing into y and x values. So you're going to switch the side for the x and the y, and then now for the new y value, which is going to be using the x number, you're going to have a negative number. So this is going to be the rule that you can follow for this. Now, when you're rotating a figure 100 degrees, it doesn't matter if you're rotating either clockwise or counterclockwise. You're going to end up on the same coordinate plane, which is going to be the direct opposite from your original. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this figure, our original figure, when you rotate them into 180 degrees, it's going to look like this. So I have my A prime, B prime, and C prime. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you go this way or this way, you're going to move two coordinate plane or two quadrants away from the original. So let's go ahead and take a look at our A prime, B prime, and C prime in this case. Our A prime is going to be all the way down here, and if you notice, it's going to be negative 2 to the left, and then going to have 6 down in this case. I have to squeeze in my A prime, but anyway, it's going to be negative 2 and negative 6. My B prime is going to be negative 2 and negative 2. And then my C prime is going to be negative 5 and negative 2. If you realize for 180 degrees, the numbers on the x and the y coordinates are not changing, but the signs are changing. So if they were positive, they're all going to change into negative. And the same way, if you have the ordinal from this coordinate plane and you want to move to the opposite side, it's going to be the opposite sign for all the x and the y values. So when you have your x and y values, if you're changing, if you're rotating 180 degrees, you're going to have a negative x and a negative y for your final answer. And this is going to be your rule to follow. Let's go ahead and do some practice questions. I think for you to find out information on how to rotate it, you'll need some example. So let's say I have a triangle A, B, and C, and now I have point A, B, and C. A is negative 3.5, comma 6. B is negative 1, comma 3. C is negative 6, comma 3. So let's go ahead and graph this. You can pause the video and then graph it. If you notice, because A has negative 3.5, I went 1, 2, 3, and maybe a half, and then I went up 6. So I have a shape, or I have a triangle A, B, and C. Let's say you have to rotate this object 90 degrees counterclockwise. If I say 90 degrees counterclockwise, I am going to move this direction. So I'll have to move it to my third quadrant in order to have 90 degrees counterclockwise. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use a method that helps you to visualize the 90 degrees. So for example, for my point B, in order to get to point B from the origin, and we're going to rotate this from the origin, which is going to be the middle, right here. This is called the origin. So let's say I'm going to use the origin as my middle point and then move it, rotate it to counterclockwise. In order for me to get to B, I have to go up 1, 2, 3, and 1 out. So what I'm going to do is, because I know it's 90 degrees, my next shape will have to be on this line, and I am going to have the same thing, 1, 2, 3, climb up, and then 1 out. And if you notice, I am not moving the hook here up top here because that's going to be a different shape. I want to move this shape clearly 90 degrees. And if you notice, I have formed 90 degrees right here. So I'm going to have this one as my B prime. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for my A and C. So I'm going to do my A with a different color to show you. You can use the same color, in fact. So in order for me to meet A, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go out 1, 2, 3 and half. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to move 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go 3 and half. And this is going to be my A prime. For C, now I have to move 1, 2, 3 up, and then I went out 6. So I'm going to do the same thing, 1, 2, 3 out, and then move out 6 right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect the dots. So when I connect the dots, I'm going to have a new figure, A prime, B prime, C prime, which is going to be exactly 90 degrees away from each other. So let's go ahead and find out A prime, B prime, and C prime's coordinate point. A prime is going to be 6 and negative 3.5. So 6 and negative 3.5. B prime is going to be negative 3 and negative 1. And C prime is going to be negative 3 and negative 6. So like we have looked into it before, our numbers are going to switch the spots, and only the x numbers are going to change into the opposite sign. If you finished watching the video, go ahead and answer the EQ question for today, which were identifying 3 different ways to move a figure into a different position. So just go ahead and put it underneath the EQ or on the side of it, and I'll be checking that for a notebook check. And for today, your homework is going to be from Rap Book 134. And if you have watched this video thoroughly and up to this point, put a heart next to your name in your homework so that I know that you watched this all the way through. Thank you.